Hey everybody, this is a video tutorial for how to build a solid octahedron, and then a solid cuboctahedron, and then finally a solid diagonal cube. And when you're building the diagonal cube, you have to go in that order to get to it. So I'm just doing all of these in one video. Now the first thing that you need is a bunch of kind of hexagonal and triangular sheets of magnets. The first one that you need is a hexagon. And it's blue for illustration purposes. I'll explain why in a minute. But this is just going to be a regular hexagon of any size, really. I'm doing it with an edge of 6, though, for this video. So all the edges are 6 magnets long on this hexagon. And then what you need 2 of these pieces. And so what's happened now is it's slightly asymmetric. And so one side has gone up in length to 7. So it's gone up by 1 magnet. And then one side has gone down in length to 5. So this was 6 and 6, and now this is 7 and 5. And you need 2 of those. And then continuing on, the long side gets longer and the short side gets shorter. This is 8 and 4. And you need 2 of those. Then you have 9 and 3. And 2 of those. And then 10 and 2. You need 2 of those. And then finally, you need another 2 triangles, and these are 9 and 2. They're going to be, the long edge is 1 shorter than whatever it was for these ones. So, then to build the solid octahedron, you start off with one of these triangles, the ones that end in 2 on the short side. And you're going to stack these up successively on top of it. You're going to start with this one, and then you're going to do one of the ones with 3 for the short edge, and then you're going to go until you get to the hexagon, and then you're going to come back this way to here, and then we'll add these on at the end. So, what you do is you take these 2 and they just mesh together like that. And then you just keep adding more layers like that until you've gone all the way around this loop. Okay, so now you're at this point, and you have something that looks almost octahedral, but it's not quite even. So what you have to do is on these 2 faces, you take these that are a little bit shorter and make sure they're the right polarity to mesh in, and you add them on just like that. And now you can see there's 3 little square spots. And then you do the same thing on the other side. And now it's symmetrical. And this is a solid octahedron. If you want to finish off the points, you can just take single magnets and put them there and there and there, just 6 of them, and that would finish the solid octahedron. So that's how you build that. And now on to the solid cuboctahedron. And point I want to make here real quick before we do that, I would explain why I have this one layer as a blue hexagon. And that is that if it wasn't there, this would just look symmetrical. You wouldn't be able to tell what the polarity was. This way, with this, you can see that this thing is polarized that way. It's not even across, all these points are not equal. This whole thing does have a net polarity, because each of these sheets, the magnets are polarized kind of concentrically. It's a ring of aligned north to south poles going around. But then on these, and that's true on this face and this face, but then on these triangular faces, the polarity is just sideways. It's just lateral every time. So these lateral faces are different from these polar faces. And it's important to remember that, especially when you're making the diagonal cube. But for now, we're just going to the cuboctahedron. And what you do is you take a card And on these kind of the square points, you just kind of slide the card in underneath, just like that. It's kind of hard to get in there. You have to jam it in pretty hard. But then you get that, and you can just take that all off. And it actually is pretty difficult. The magnetic field on this is strong. So you go ahead and you chop off all the points. Okay, and now you have a solid cuboctahedron. And you do want to be careful because it's not weak, it's not really unstable, but the outer triangular faces here kind of like to slide off to the side, so you don't want to mess with them too much. But you can see now why it's important for me to have this blue hexagon here. Otherwise, it would be tough to see in the video what the polarity was. I mean, honestly, and it's hard for me to tell if I don't have that there. But that is a solid cuboctahedron. And now to go on to the diagonal cube. And what you do for that is you just take a long chain of magnets, and we're going to add triangles on to the corners to flesh out the cube. Now, the way you have to do it for the polar faces is relatively easy. You just make a small triangle, or in this case a hexagon because it's so small, and you take it and you attach it down on top like that. And then you can add a couple single magnets to do the corners. Hold on a second. It really is kind of a fidgety shape. It's hard to make everything sit just right. Okay, there. And that's how you do the polar faces. It's pretty straightforward. Now, for the lateral faces, the ones with the kind of the blue stripe running through, the ones where the polarity is running side to side rather than around in a circle, what you need to do is you need to first make sure your chain is right. You need to make sure it will mesh with the equator when you're doing this. And so then what you want to do is you want to look at however many magnets across the square here is. And here, for this cube, it's 6 right now. And you want to take whatever that number is and subtract 2. And so you have a chain of 4 magnets. And then you want to bring this back over and lay down 3 more magnets on top of it. So these are just 2 chains of magnets where the polarity is aligned side to side. And you can just take this and carefully place it down on top of that triangular face, just like that. Now, my chain rolled up, so I need to check the polarity again. Okay, so now that that's there and it's stable, you want to do the same thing on top of those 3 magnets and add 2 more. See, and then add finally 1 right at the tip. And that will make sure that the triangle stays down. If you just try and add a piece like you would on the polar faces, it wouldn't stick down. It would just kind of have a tendency to like bend off and kind of, it doesn't want to stick. So that's how you get them to stick on these corners. So then you go ahead and you do the other two on this half of it. Okay, and now you've put triangles on one half of it so far. And now if you look on the other half, you're going to want to do the same thing that you just did, but you have to reverse the polarity of your chain to make it work. But again, it's the same principle. You take a double row and just set it down on top, and then do 2 magnets and 1. And then you do that to the other 2. Okay, and quick note here, these triangles kind of tend to slide around, so you don't want to handle them too roughly or they'll slide out of place. And it looks like I did not do the other polar face. I guess I forgot about it, so I'll do that real quick. Okay, and now you're at this point, and you're mostly done. It basically looks very close to a diagonal cube at this point. If you're going on to do the caged cube, which is not a tutorial I've made yet, but I will be doing it soon, this is where you want to stop. You don't want to add the last corner pieces on yet. You want to go on to that tutorial. But if you're just here to make the caged cube, or not the cube, just the cube without the cage, the last thing you do is you take little triangles and you set them down on top of these ones. Just like that. And you do that to all 8 corners. And it really should matter, but it doesn't seem to, whether they're polar faces or lateral faces. So just kind of do them all. And there you go. That's how you make a diagonal cube. And if you weren't, trying to do this for a video where you want to show people how it's done, you wouldn't have to use blue magnets or anything. And then it would look all symmetrical. But that's how you make it.